Hey guys, and welcome to my Guardian Druid PvP guide. In this video I'll be going over talents, traits, rotation, self-healing, pretty much everything you kind of want to know about Guardian Druid in PvP. So more or less a crash course on how to play Guardian Druid like I do in PvP. So going over stats. Your first stat you want is versatility, second stat you want is haste, third stat you want is mastery, fourth stat you want is crit. However, my own mindset is that secondary stats don't really matter because I'm just too lazy to, keep track of all that secondary stat shit. So I usually just get whatever's the highest item level upgrade, which is kind of shown because I'm just equipping highest item level gear on this guy. Going over my talents as well, I always take Brambles here. I think Brambles is really good and it just pads the meters in PvP. Also, if you take Brambles with Protector of the Pack, it actually does a decent amount of damage as well. But that is really only viable if you're super geared and you know you'll be able to, I guess, withstand the amount of damage you're absorbing from your teammates. Here I go Wild Charge just because it's a charge. You can charge enemies in bear form, cat form, travel form. You can just dash away. Pretty useful. Restoration Affinity is my choice here. I usually find it heals for about 15% of frenzied regen, which is most for healing, but you wouldn't think Ysera's gift would actually heal a decent amount in Battlegrounds, but it really does. For some reason, whenever I look at myself healing in Battlegrounds, which I wish I had data on right now, but which I might actually, healing, it's actually pretty close to frenzied regen healing. So Restoration Affinity, pretty decent. Mighty Bash for the stun. I don't think any of these are really worth taking except for the stun. Galactic Guardian just for the increased Moonfire damage. You can take, I guess, the other choices. Mangle damage can be increased by 25%, which is pretty relevant, I suppose. Incarnation, don't think I've ever taken it. I've never really gone out of Galactic Guardian, and Galactic Guardian is my choice here. For the 90 row, I always take Guardian of Elune, and I'll explain this further, but essentially the main important thing here is the healing of your next frenzied regen by 20%. Increases the healing of your frenzied regen by 20%, which is huge, absolutely huge in PvP. For the 100 row, I just go Rend and Tear. Increases damage you deal and reduces the damage you take per application of Thrash up to 6%. So if you get 3 applications of if you get 3 applications of Thrash, you're doing 6% damage increase and 6% damage reduction on yourself. The other option here I'd suggest you, if you really don't want to run just the passive, is Pulverize, because it does do decent damage and essentially does the same thing as Rend and Tear, except no damage increase, but it reduces the damage you take by 9% for 20 seconds. The only bad part about this is that it consumes a stack of Thrash, and Thrash is a majority of your damage. Going into the honor talents, I really like Demoralizing Roar. Essentially, it's like a 8-second duration bark skin, but it applies to the enemy target, so any damage that the enemy target does will be reduced by 20%, and this includes the damage they do to your allies. The next one is Den Mother, just increases max health. You're a bear druid, so you really want max health. And for some reason I take Toughness. I think it really helps when you're getting chain CC'd and you have like 4 people on you. It really helps kind of get you out of those stuns faster and lets you control your character faster, which obviously lets you heal more and pop more defensives. The other options that I've seen people take are Sharpened Claws. Maul increases the damage of your swipe and thrash by 25%. The main reason I don't take this is because I don't like using my rage on Maul, because whenever I use my rage on Maul, I find that most times I'll just be rage starved whenever I need my own self heals. The other talent you'd want to take here is Protector of the Pack. 20% of all damage done to nearby allies is redirected to you. This will proc your Brambles, which Brambles just does nature damage to people. The main reason people say to take this is just so it procs your Brambles damage, but I find whenever I take this talent, and with my slightly low item level on this guy, if I do take Protector of the Pack, I find that I just absorb too much damage from my allies and I just drop down to 35% health and then I just die. So I don't take this, but if you are a very geared Guardian Druid or a geared Druid, then try it out. So let's go over the very basic offensive rotation or damage rotation of Guardian Druid. Essentially, your 2 most damaging abilities as a Guardian Druid is Thrash, Moonfire, and Mangle. When Moonfire does proc with your talent, the Moonfire talent that I already forgot the name of, it can do decent single target damage. You'll see it applies for 5,000 damage initially, and then just the normal Moonfire damage over the rest of the duration. Other than that, Mangle and Thrash are your next 2 top damaging abilities. Thrash does a little bit less damage than Mangle, but it is an AoE ability. It also applies a dot to the target, so... And again, with the bottom row talent that you are taking, it increases your damage by 6% and then reduces the damage people do to you by 6%, so that is something to keep in mind. But yeah, this is essentially just the offensive rotation, using Mangle whenever it's up, using Thrash whenever it's up, and applying Moonfire to the target that you're attacking. One thing I like to do as Guardian, if you are just out of range of people, is applying Moonfire to everyone around you. This is very underrated. Moonfire as a Guardian Druid does the same damage as Moonfire would as a balanced Druid / Feral Druid. You'll see there it does tick for quite a bit on multiple targets. So the offensive / damage rotation is very simple. Mangle, Thrash, and Moonfire. That's all you need to know. And this is where it starts to get complicated, or a little bit more complicated. Frenzied Regen and Iron Fur. Iron Fur has no use against magic people, so if you're getting hit by casters, run away or go super offensive. You really have no choice, and you really don't have any defensives for casters other than your self-healing. However, Iron Fur is really good against warriors. Literally anyone who does physical damage, it will reduce the damage they do to you by quite a bit and makes you really, really tanky. Going into Guardian of Elune and Frenzied Regen and certain traits. First of all, let's talk about Frenzied Regen. Heals you for 32% of your health over 3 seconds, 30-second cooldown. Very strong. So 32% of your health over 3 seconds. This can get buffed by Guardian of Elune. Obviously 20% increase on your Frenzied Regen. That is 6.4% added on top of 32%. So 38.4% of your health over 3 seconds. So about 13% of your health every second regen if you use Guardian of Elune. And this can be increased by... hold on, let me find it. It's a trait that extends the duration of your Frenzied Regen. There we go. Mangle extends the duration of your Frenzied Regen by 1 second up to 3 seconds, and Frenzied Regen restores an additional 2,000 whatever health over 2 seconds, or every second. This is pretty important. The main reason I say this is because if you do have a lot of people on you and you go to about half health and you need to get your health back, let me generate enough rage to use Frenzied Regen. Let me get a Mangle proc here. So let's say you're about half health, you use Frenzied Regen, you use Mangle to extend it, and then if you're really lucky you can get one more proc on Mangle and extend it by another 1 second. So essentially, if you're super lucky, you can generate about 60 to 50% of your health back in one global if you do extend the Frenzied Regen with Mangle. And I wish I could show you guys the healing I've gotten in Battlegrounds using just Frenzied Regen. Recently on stream I did a random Battlegrounds as Guardian Druid. I did about 7 million damage and 7 million healing as a tank. So the self-healing of Guardian Druid is very strong. Your other cooldowns that you can use: Incapacitating Roar. I only really use this if I need to peel off my healers or if I need to interrupt a Greater Pyro. Otherwise, there's not really a whole lot of use out of it. Most of the time your Thrash will cancel the disorient effect from it, but it is really good just for interrupting spells. Also, another interrupt you have is Skull Bash, obviously, but I hope we know that. Talking about Demoralizing Roar, I'll apply the debuff right here. Demoralized, dealing 20% less damage. Pretty straightforward. It's essentially a Bark Skin, but for multiple targets on a 30-second cooldown. And talking about Bark Skin, 20% damage reduction is really the main important thing here, and it's usable when you are CC'd. Your other cooldown is Survival Instincts. I hope we all know what this does, but damage taken reduced by 50% for 6 seconds, max 2 charges. And with certain traits, it does give you Mastery and Armor, which, again, pretty useful. So talking about essences, usually I just take Concentrated Flame because I like having DPS, but obviously I don't have any other choices here. If you really want, you can use Concentrated Flame in your major slot, and then in your minor slots use Memory of Lucid Dreams or Null Barrier. I've heard Memory of Lucid Dreams is really strong because it does just provide extra healing, but I don't have it, so... But if you do have the minor power of Lucid Dreams, I'd highly suggest using it, because it'll just increase your self-healing by a little bit. So I'm going to showcase the Frenzied Regen healing that you can get. So I'm going to buff my Frenzied Regen with Guardian of Elune first. Obviously 20% increase on my next Frenzied Regen is very nice. Let me get my Mangle back up and just watch my health. Watch my health here. And if I'm lucky, I'll get another proc and I'll be able to extend it by 1 more. So you'll see there I went from about half health to full health. I did do the certain scenario where you are able to extend Frenzied Regen by 2 seconds instead of just 1 by pressing 2 globals of Mangle. So let's go to the healing there. 228k healing. I am very undergeared, and this will scale up to your item level, so the more health you have, the more healing you will have. Frenzied Regen, really strong. really good healing. And majority of the reason why I play Guardian Druid is just because of its crazy self-healing right now. And obviously it's pretty decent damage. Its damage is, I'd say, comparable to Feral Druid. I'd say that's about it. One of the main reasons I like Guardian Druid is because it's, for the most part, a very simple spec outside of being able to use your Frenzied Regen correctly. You just use Thrash, use Mangle, apply Moonfire. When you have literally nothing else to press, you can press Swipe. But most times, even when I don't have Mangle or Thrash up, I just apply Moonfire to multiple people. But Swipe does have a chance to reduce/reset the cooldown of your Mangle, so that is something to keep in mind, especially in very high AoE situations. You'll see here in this 4-man pack, the proc chance of Mangle being reset is a lot higher than just single target. And again, something to keep in mind if you are needing that health back and you need those Mangle procs to extend your Frenzied Regen. Big AoE groups is somewhat important. And then, yeah, just know how to Frenzied Regen. That's like the only thing you really need to know how to do outside of that. Extend your Frenzied Regen with Mangle, and buff it with Guardian of Elune, and you'll pretty much never die. Whenever I play Guardian in Battlegrounds, if you know what you're doing, and know how to line of sight, if you do run out of Frenzied Regen stacks, you pretty much never die. And you do the same healing as a healer, and the same damage as the DPS. So, Guardian Druid, by far one of my favorite specs right now. Probably one of the most fun specs I've played in recent expansions, and if you haven't tried it, I'd highly suggest you do so. If you guys liked the video, go ahead and show support by liking it, follow Twitch, follow Twitter, all of that jazz, and until next time, I'll see you guys.